Sarge gang, I am still a hard man. Let's go. So, apparently, I have received some skeptical criticism about some viewpoints I hold in regards to the early truther movement, the 9/11 era sort of truther movement. You have to understand that things have changed considerably in regards to the paleocon movement and how it interfaces and does its interactions within the skeptic truther movement, whatever you want to call it. But Bill Cooper came along. You have to understand that Bill Cooper came along the scene at a time when people still trusted legacy news and the legacy media. Bill Cooper was was well ahead of the curve, very much. Bill Milton Cooper came along quite early into the truther movement. Actually, he was involved in the UFO stuff. In the 80s, he was talking about UFOs. He was going to UFOlogy meetings and discussing aspects about the UFO movement and stuff. And then sometime in the 90s, like right around the Oklahoma City incident, the Oklahoma City bombings incident. Okay, I gotta be careful. This is YouTube. The Minecraft Oklahoma City stuff, he changed his positions, and he started to be a truther. And he started to say that UFOs were man-made and they were pushed by the deep state. He changed his position a bit. He kind of did a bit of a turn, like a 380 there. So Bill Cooper had a radio talk show where he talked about and leaked a lot of information. And he wasn't the only one doing this. Webster Tarpley actually was already doing this before Bill Cooper was. So Bill Cooper was not the first, but he was the most outspoken person in the militia, in the truther movement. And he had quite an advantage in this regard, because Bill Cooper had quite a bit of information that he collected. He put it into his book, Behold a Pale Horse. And you have to understand that the world back then was quite different. Most people still trusted in the legacy media and legacy news, and most people were quite blue-pilled and still believed in what the establishment said and told them. And Bill Cooper was coming on and saying with this information that the government was corrupt, there was a satanic cabal running things, and he was already quite black-pilled even back then. So a lot of stuff that's taken for granted now was actually started by Bill Cooper, Webster Tarpley, Tex Mars, and a lot of other people. And they had a lot of influence on Alex Jones and some of the things that Alex Jones talks about. And Bill Cooper was there before Alex Jones. In fact, Alex Jones was actually quite liberal and left-wing back then, in the 90s. And Alex Jones was just barely coming out of... Alex Jones was just barely starting, and Bill Cooper was well ahead of him. So Bill Cooper had this advantage that he already had a lot of the original source information and material, which is very interesting, how exactly he got his hands on this anti-establishment material, especially in the days before the internet, because Behold a Pale Horse was printed and distributed before it was possible to leak this stuff. Like, if you look at, like, for example, WikiLeaks, WikiLeaks would have been impossible in the 1990s because not enough people were using the internet, not enough people were really critical of what the establishment was saying. So Bill Milton Cooper had a great advantage in regards to this, and he was quite ahead. But it's quite ironic that Bill Cooper was taken out right at the right time, because had Bill Cooper stayed alive in the 2000s and the 2010s, he would have gone down the exact same rabbit hole as Alex Jones. And he would have ultimately become probably even a Trump supporter. It's hard to really know if Bill William Milton Cooper would have become a Trump supporter, a MAGA supporter of sorts, because he was taken out by the deep state in 2001 because he was providing too much counter information, alternative information about 9/11 and what actually happened in 9/11, how it was an inside job and all of that. So he left the scene at the right time. Now, after Bill Cooper passed away, a lot of his friends and acquaintances that he had met and made continued to distribute his source material, his old broadcasts. They saved all of them. They saved all of the VHS record tapes that he had done, and they preserved his information. And these guys were involved in the truther movement, and they kind of did their own stuff and all of that. But it's very important to understand that while he did a lot of good in helping to wake people up, in helping to motivate and create a new generation of truthers and people on the alternative news, alternative media scene, counter-establishment, anti-elitist material, anti-establishment scene, you have to understand that he was far from perfect. I get a lot of criticism for this. I don't exactly understand why, but Bill Cooper was a drunkard. It is a fact that he did drink, and trying to say that because I say that Bill Cooper drank heavily, that he cut some guy's tires in 1991 somewhere in California because they said something at a UFO convention that he didn't like, and that he was actually quite aggressive and got into these drunken rants, social drunken brawls, if you would like to call it that. And he would try to fight people, he would provoke people. He was easily provoked and did not take ridicule very good. Bill Milton Cooper and a lot of the guys who follow him, they do not take criticism well. They were not very good, and still are not very good with receiving skeptic criticism or skepticism about everything they say, and they kind of have a bit of an inflated ego. But Bill Cooper was not perfect. He drank heavily. There were Christian patriots that called into his show and told him that it was a very specific demographic that I'm not going to mention, and he did not like it. And these things were saved by his friends. So saying that I support the ADL and saying that I use or misuse ADL misinformation on him, and somehow that's a lie, that's a bald lie about his person or against his person, well, he's dead. How am I going to insult someone who's been dead for over 20 fucking years now? Okay? Who's going to worry about it? I'm just a nobody on the internet. Who is going to even really take the time to be concerned with what I say, first of all? Now, that being said, a lot of Christians would call in to Bill Cooper's radio show and they would question him. They would they would assert him about some stuff in regards to certain things. I'm not going to mention the names thereof. And he would say that, oh, it's not true. The protocolas or protocolales are not real. That's all lies. It's not them. It's not them. Okay, it's the satanic shadow cabal. I'm not going to really, he's not going to really say exactly what it is. He's just going to kind of fiddle around and make up assertions and stuff. That kind of argument is very inconsistent and counterproductive. Okay, there's a lot of things he said that just simply were not correct. He had a lot of misinformation, and he fed a lot of misinformation to people. I don't understand how that means that I am siding with the establishment, because clearly I'm not, okay? I have had the police try to investigate me multiple times just because of stuff I said or have said on YouTube. So I'm clearly not pro-establishment. I've had intel agency try to come after me, try to gang stalk me. I've been a victim of gang stalking COINTELPRO of the deep state. So it's not a pro-establishment thing to assert that Bill Cooper wasn't always right about what he said. I don't know why I need to keep saying this again. I've already done 3 very long videos, and they're on Rumble. They're on my Rumble. You can go there and you can look at them for yourself, and you can understand that I was right to say that Bill Cooper was horribly misinformed about some things. He was not perfect. He drank heavily, and he did cut the tires of someone at a UFO convention in California in 1991. That really did happen. That actually did happen. He did cut someone's tires, and he did threaten to cause personal harm and injury. Okay? When you're threatening someone to cause them harm and injury, that's not being a good person. Okay? That's criminal. That's being a criminal, and that is doing things that are illegal to do. Okay? If you're going to try to make an anti-establishment platform and you're trying to talk about like alternative truths and dissident truths and realities, the last thing you want to do is like do something like that, okay? That's just crazy. It's bipolar. You cannot do that kind of stuff. So there were a lot of these Christian patriots that would come on and they would question him very assertedly, and he would kind of dodge it. So another thing too, Bill Milton Cooper was he was an egalitarianist. He believed that the satanic cabal, satanic shadow Illuminati cabal, were oppressing everyone. And he felt that everyone, regardless of their background or ethnicity, were in the same boat. And to a degree, that's true. But Bill Cooper was not a real patriot. Okay? He actually made some pretty horrific statements. And he threatened to cause harm and injury to people. And you know what? He might have actually done something really crazy at some point. And actually he did. He shot a deputy. He shot a police deputy in New Mexico. I gotta be careful because this is YouTube and I have to be careful with certain words I say. But Bill William Milton Cooper did shoot someone and they died. I don't know I don't know what else to say about it. And then they came and he got into a gunfight and he lost. And this is the problem with these guys. They think that they're going to fight the government and preserve the Constitution by doing these kind of crazy, unhinged things. These guys think that they're going to go out into the countryside and they're going to hide out in an underground bunker or something, and they're going to arm themselves and they're going to fight the government. And that's just not going to be the case. Because look at what happened to Waco. Waco is the perfect example of why that strategy does not work. This is not how you solve the things with the shadow government. So Bill William Milton Cooper was right about a lot of things. And he did create a lot of good points and information that he gave on his radio shows. He did a lot of good, but the problem is that he also did a lot of wrong. He caused a lot of personal harm to others, and he just did wrong. His wife was ethnically Chinese. His wife was ethnically Chinese, and he had a child with her. Okay, they had a child. So Bill William Milton Cooper was not, he was not awake in that sense. And you had plenty of these Christian patriots calling into his show, telling him who runs things, and he flat out denied it. So the question I have to raise is that if I am using so-called ADL misinformation when I'm really just telling the truth about this guy, I could just as easily say that he was using the same exact source material about what he said in regards to denying that it was a certain demographic. Maybe he was using ADL material to say that. Okay? He did a 5-part radio broadcast series, and it's still up on YouTube. It's up everywhere you can find it, about Christian identity. Now, I am not in Christian identity. I don't care about it. But he clearly was not following or pushing from that viewpoint. Okay? He was just saying that everybody was on the same boat with the establishment. So, it's just wrong. Okay? And also, if you're going to be consistent with your blend assertion and straw man argument, then you have to be consistent. Bill Cooper said that it was not them who were running things. Okay, I put it up in Discord. You can watch it for yourself. And so to be consistent, that would lead to a fallacy of abduction. It would lead to pure abductive reasoning. And that is just simply not going to work. You cannot have two truths. Two truths cannot coexist as one. It simply does not work. So, the honest conclusion is to just admit that he was not always right. And he was very much wrong about some of the things he said, some of the actions he took throughout his life. It is very interesting that Bill William Milton Cooper was involved in naval intelligence, and that he changed his position all of a sudden from talking about UFOs, UFO spacecraft, and going straight to saying that it's all a hoax. Why did he change his position so suddenly in the 90s? Why is it that he was not willing to actually call out and question the obvious when it was actually presented directly to him? This is the problem with a lot of the conspiracy truther movement. And this is why, ultimately, they lost their voices. This is why they lost out to the MAGAs and to the Trump supporters. Because most of their following, most of their audience ultimately went over to the MAGA hat movement, and left the truther movement entirely. That's why Webster Tarpley and Tex Mars are not even that well known. Okay, because people lost interest. They moved on to more consistent and more rational things that were being told by the MAGA movement. I don't like the MAGA movement. I don't care about them. But the Tea Parties and the MAGA hats had better and more consistent arguments than the rhetorical statements that were made in the truther community. Okay? And even they were co-opted by the deep state. These people were controlled opposition. Okay? And that's just reality. They were controlled opposition, even if they themselves may not have necessarily been aware that they were controlled opposition. But it's just, that's what they were. If Bill Milton Cooper was not controlled opposition, then why is it when Christian identity callers called in to his drunken ramblings, his crazy drunken ramblings, and questioned him about a very specific thing, he would flat out deny it? Okay? To not come to this conclusion is a fallacy. It is to be inconsistent and blatantly dishonest about reality. Hold on a second, let me see. This is an argument of incredulity. Okay? So, I posted in Discord that this is an argument to incredulity. Okay? And saying that I use ADL misinformation, that's just a tu quoque fallacy. It's a bandwagon fallacy. It's just a straw man. It's a pure straw man argument. Okay? Saying that Bill Cooper was always telling the truth and never made up lies and was not controlled opposition when he would flat out deny stuff that Christians would call into his show to ask him about, and he would say that it's not them, is an argument of incredulity fallacy. That's how I conclude it. So, anyways, Bill Cooper would have gone down the same rabbit hole as Alex Jones. He was basically just another Alex Jones, and he was doing the exact same thing that Alex Jones was doing in the 2000s, and then he kind of acted smart and got an ego about it, and he stroked his ego, his personal ego, and he talked about the inside job of 9/11 before 9/11 happened. And then it did happen, and guess what? They came and they took him out. The deep state came and they got rid of him just like that. So that's what they do with controlled opposition when they don't play the game. When they don't play ball in the controlled opposition side of things, that's exactly what happens. Cry about it all you want. I'm just telling you how it is. So, Rick Perry is saying, Forge Gang! I am looking forward to Operation Giant Claw this year. That will put pay to Drake's Flat Earth contentions. Well, Southern Israelite is operating from a Protestant historicist perspective, and Alan Beckwith's project Giant Claw is not going to happen anyways because NASA and the Air Force don't have the resources to put a giant claw up in space to collect and get space junk. And I don't know how Southern Israelite is going to react to that. He was already proven wrong about the Neo Dreyfus affair. Like, Elon Musk might be pushing the omega point of Teilhard de Chardin, but it's clear that they're not going after that demographic that I can't talk about. So there's no Neo Dreyfus affair. It's never going to happen. So he was already proven wrong on that. I'm currently in bidding Grant's Scotch and Portuguese port. Is that an alcohol brand? What is that? Is that like some kind of an alcohol brand or something? I am currently in bidding Grant's Scotch and Portuguese port. That's just pure decadence. Like, Rick Perry, you're living like in the Roman Empire, and you're just living in just this lie of decadence before the empire falls. You're like the Romans before the empire fell. Nothing wrong with a drunk. Some of the best folk I've known are unconscionable drunkards. The Anglo-American establishment was built with high-octane imbitters. I think it's just the consistent point of the Mystery Babylon. Okay, the Anglo-American establishment is Mystery Babylon. It's the kingdom of the Antichrist, or the formation of the beginnings of what will lead to the kingdom of the Antichrist. Donald Trump wants to build a giant casino on the West Bank in Palestine. So clearly the Anglo-American establishment want to rebuild Babylon. They want to go into the Middle East and build it up. Abu Dhabi, the Omar coastline, the Emirate coastline, the new mega cities, the high-tech, rich living cities of Qatar. All of the rich people, like all of the mega billionaires, are leaving the West and going to that region because they want to build up a new Babylonian empire. So it's just like the book of Revelations. It's Mystery Babylon the Great. The man will always find you. He never sleeps. Sony Pictures Entertainment North America will take care of the giant claw costs. I don't think that's ever going to get off the ground. There's not going to be no giant claw, just like there was no Neo Dreyfus affair. It's not going to happen. And Sony Pictures ain't going to do it, okay? It's been exposed. Now that that has been exposed, along with that secret COINTELPRO agent and Freemason Alan Beckwith, it's never going to happen. Grant's is a decent mainstream blended whiskey. Oh, okay. Mystery Babylon is a continuum. Mystery Babylon has been going on since the ancient Babylonian Empire. It fell to the Persians, and the Persians replaced the Babylonians, or the Chaldeans. Then the Greeks and Romans got into there, just like in the book of Daniel. Then there was the Holy Roman Empire, and then the British and the Americans. Now they're trying to create a new Mystery Babylon empire with places like that casino that Trump wants to build on the West Bank. It's all consistent. It's all consistent with everything that the book of Revelations has said. I visited Abu Dhabi to watch a UFC. Neo Dreyfus is just political pendulum swing. It's pretty routine. Well, I personally don't like it. I don't like how Texas is turning into Utah. For a long time, Utah was basically run by the Mormon Church, and all of the local politics and everything in Utah was dominated by the Mormons. Texas is becoming exactly that. Greg Abbott is a retard and an idiot and a nincompoop. And so is Donald Trump. They're just the front men that these bankers have put up to basically stare people up into a far-right frenzy to start their war against Islam, China, and Russia, to in turn lead to a Russo-Sino-Islamic invasion and UN military police occupation and dismemberment of the United States and its replacement with a North American techno-state. Elon Musk and Donald Trump don't care about the American people, and they do not care about the United States government. They just want to set up a large fascist technocratic state. One of the bad things about fascism is that it pushed the rise of the technocracy. And the Neo-Dreyfus affair is actually the technocrats revolting against the woke. Revolting against the woke people on the left to take over and create a fascist technocratic state. And create the techno-state of North America. And revise the Mystery Babylonian Empire. Bring back Tom Landry. Alright, so yeah. The end game is I guess not a Joachimite, but a Gnostic technocracy. The end game is to create a Gnostic technocracy and to dismember the United States, replace the dollar with the Omero, just like the euro, replace the dollar with the Omero, the petrodollar with the Omero, unite Canada, Greenland, Mexico, Central America, Cuba, Venezuela, all of that into a tech state, a fascist, Gnostic, technocratic state, and put people into VR, put people into their domiciles, lock them up into their domiciles, keep people isolated, just like in Brave New World, and set up and build places like Abu Dhabi, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Saudi Arabia, with the cube that they're building in Saudi Arabia, and create that third Babylonian empire that will be the center of the reign of the Antichrist. And the Gnostic technocracy will lead directly to the reign of the Antichrist. Maybe, perhaps not directly, but it's very clear that the technocrats are fascist. Not the good fascists, but the bad technocratic fascists. Elon Musk's grandfather was involved in the technocracy movement, where the government would appoint scientists to monitor and to deal with all the aspects of life. They would get rid of elections, they would get rid of Congress and the Senate, get rid of the presidency, and create a technocratic fascist state where everybody is just low-wage earners, and they're just slaves to the order, and they get the mark of the beast. Just exactly as the book of Revelations and the book of Daniel say. Just exactly what was predicted and prophesied thousands of years ago is coming to pass, and only a fool would not be able to recognize this reality. This is the hard reality, a truth that only a true hard man will understand. So anyways, I am your host, Imperator Forge. Rick Perry says, left, right, uniparty, fair. Mike is muffled. Anyways, that's all I had to say. Elon Musk's grandfather was involved in the technocracy movement in the 1930s. The technocrats want to build a technocratic fascist Gnostic state, lock people away in domiciles, turn them into mind-controlled slaves like in Brave New World, where people cannot have actual sex, and they take drugs and pills, and they stay in domiciles and get involved in ER chat with Neuralink. They want to build up Abu Dubai on the casinos that Trump wants to build in the West Bank, deport all the Palestinians to Jordan, build up a large antichrist city in the Middle East, and set up the new Babylonian Empire, and this fascist Gnostic technocracy will lead directly into the reign of the Antichrist. Rick Perry says better now. Anyways, I'm your host, Imperator of Forge. Bill Milton William Cooper was a scoundrel and a drunkard. That's all I had to say.